You are live.
Good to be back with all you guys. I really enjoy this. This is just fun. Crystal, I get a little break away from the kiddos for an hour, hop in here in the studio that was provided to us through all those who support us on Patreon. So thank you guys for doing that. And we're just here for you guys for the next hour to answer any questions you have on dating, relationships, parenting, vocational discernment, chastity, relationship drama, breakups, whatever. We're just here. And so if you want to shoot in a question, there's a couple ways to do that. One, if you're a supporter on Patreon, you go to the top of the list, but you're going to want to message us through Patreon. And that'll indicate that that question is coming from you as a supporter. We'll bump that to the top of the list. You could also email in your question at live@chastity.com, and Josiah will feed those questions as they come through to us. And then on the Discord server, you can actually call in and talk to us through a live Q&A if you prefer a phone call. So with the emails, it's real easy and anonymous to do it that way if you prefer, or if you want to talk and chit-chat back and forth a little bit, use the Discord server. But thank you for coming on the show, Crystalina. How are you doing tonight?
Good. We just had our anniversary on Saturday. I was supposed to post something, but it's just been really crazy with the kiddos. And I didn't ask you for prayers, but it was our anniversary. And
22 years.
It is shocking how fast things go by. But then looking back at where we were a year ago to where we are now, it's really interesting. And it made me start thinking and just praying about, is this where God kind of wants me? Is this where God wants us in our relationship, in my relationship with him? As a mom, like, am I living really out the will of God in where I'm at in my life right now? Okay. And I don't think a lot of people are doing that. And that is a hard, difficult thing to do, especially in this day and age. But it's a really sobering question to ask. And I think I brought this up in the past before on other shows. But how many of you can ask yourself that kind of sobering question of, is this where God wants me? Am I in alignment with his will in my life? And what aspects am I not, and why? And is it my own laziness? Is it just my addiction? Is it, I don't know. It's just a tough question to kind of just self-reflect on, especially when you're in adoration or maybe before or after mass, but it's...
So essentially, like, am I the husband I need to be? Am I the wife that I need to be? Just kind of
is this where God wants me, even though it's not where I may want to be in my life? Like, some of you are single right now. Some of you are really busy getting prepared for school, and maybe it's just not the school you want to go to, but it's the door that opened and that's where God is sending you, and you just never know. But it's not necessarily what we want, or looking at us from our own point of view, but looking at it almost like, is this where God wants me? Mm-hmm. Is this what God wants me to live out right now?
Meaning, like, is he calling you to more ministry, more family, more marriage? Like, where's the focal point at?
Like, in alignment with his will, and what parts of my life are not in alignment with his will? And those parts, well, why? Is it my own selfishness? Is it my own addiction? Is it my own sin? Is it just I'm not listening and I just want to do what I want to do? Am I being selfish with my time and my life, and being stingy with him in one aspect but being very generous in others, and that's maybe compensating for where I'm not giving those things to him? Does that make sense?
It does.
I don't know.
It's pretty heavy stuff.
I'm thinking about that.
I thought she was leading in with, like, we had this super fun 22nd wedding anniversary and it was awesome.
Yeah, Jason, brag about the date.
Deep,
I
and
thought
like,
she was
does
going to
God
brag about how good you were at dating. And
and I was like, does God even want me here right now? I'm like, what? Like,
Jason, I'm giving you license to brag about how good you are at dating right now.
I would hope so.
Awesome. Okay, let's go back to the anniversary. It was amazing. We had the most unbelievable dinner.
Thank you.
And he was very romantic and sweet.
Fireworks.
He gave me
at the pool.
He gave me
the same three bouquets I gave you when I proposed to you.
He proposed to me with red, yellow, and white.
Okay, she remembered. Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful, and he walked in, and it brought tears to my eyes, and just it was great. But also maybe just start thinking about, like, where we're at, where we've been, where we've come from,
where we're going,
and then me, where we're going, all of it, and that's okay. That's a
okay.
good thing,
Introspective
than, like,
wife.
Let's just live another day.
Yes.
Alrighty then. Real people, okay.
So she's introspecting. I'm like, that was fun.
We had a really unbelievable anniversary, and we actually got to spend 17 whole hours away from
19. It was 19 hours away from the kids.
Like a record. Hours. straight.
And then we came home.
Oh, they were just.
And they acted like we had orphaned them.
I know.
Like we left them like a bunch of food and some replenishing cat feeding thing. Like, no, like we left you food. You had siblings. You got paid to watch each other. Like,
funny.
Be it as it may. So,
Yeah.
so Josiah, how are you doing? And what do we got for the show today?
Really great, actually. I know a lot of people talk bad on video games, but one of my favorite games of all time, the sequel just came out, and so
Oh, what is it?
what's it called? It's called Splitgate.
Oh, I have no idea what that is.
And my friend who called in last week and I have some really great memories of playing it, back before we were adults with real lives and responsibilities. And so we've been playing it in the evenings a couple times, and it's just been really, like a breath of nostalgia, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Throwback.
Very
there,
nice.
Huh?
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we got an old video game system. It was like a Nintendo NS
Yeah.
61 or whatever the heck the thing was. I bought it for Christmas a few years ago. It's basically the Nintendo games I grew up with, and then get my kids hooked on them. Just playing. I mean, the kids aren't hooked on the video games at all,
Yeah.
but just where they're playing these games that are 30 years old. They're just laughing at the graphics of it, like two little blocks doing whatever. But and there was Zelda and Excite Bike and all this. It was just all the memories come flooding back.
And the music.
Great,
the
isn't it?
music
Yeah.
of these things, right?
Anyway, we
Super
do have a
vibrant.
caller.
Yeah. Oh, we get a call.
Okay.
I would love to talk about the nostalgia of video games with you guys all day, but we have a caller and we have a show and we have clips to make from callers. So
Let's
let's
fly.
take our caller, the Cube Factor. You are welcome to come up on stage. Dun, dun. Oh, and here he is. Hello, Cube Factor.
It sounds like some
Okay.
discotheque going on there.
Yeah, that was some interesting stuff.
All right.
I've moved him back to the audience while he figures his audio out. Hopefully you figure your audio out.
Hopefully you do.
Yeah.
So we have I think a good place there's this really interesting comment we got this week.
Okay.
It says, Mr. Ever, I'm 13 years old. I've wanted to join have wanted to join religious life, but truly don't know if I'm being called. Everyone in my life just seems to think I'm saying it for attention, but I do not know what to believe. My question is, how do I know if I'm called or if I only want to be because I want attention?
Okay. Well, one is that our motives for anything will always be intermingled with self-love because of original sin. This is something that's always going to be a part. And so if it's just like, hey, I fed that poor person, was that 100% out of pure apostolic charity? Or is there 1% of self-conceit in there? There could be a mix, but God doesn't want to lose our peace over that. He just wants us to love him by doing good. And so when it comes to like, wait a minute, is there 10% of wanting attention? Maybe. What if it's like 80% wanting attention and only 20% vocation, but God's still calling you? And he just wants you to heal that other part as he continues to call. So it's not like an all or nothing thing. There could be an intermingling of motives going on here, but give that to God. And sometimes, as weird as this sounds, sometimes it's God's will for you not to know his will. Because a lot of people think the holier I get, then the more clear my future will become before me. Not necessarily. Sometimes he leaves it in the cloud for quite a while because he wants you to walk with him. Because there's certain things you can only learn through faith by walking in a cloud with him. I mean, the scriptures tell us loud and clear, your word is a lamp unto my feet, light into my path. Okay, let's be realistic. How much light does a lamp give you at dark on a path? Like nothing, like a foot and a half in front of you. It's not like my word is a spotlight for you and you're going to know what's going on. We were at camping once with the kids and someone at a campsite a quarter mile away had this like starlight that was like a lightsaber a mile into the sky. I'm like, that is so cool. And they were pointing out the different constellations. It's probably illegal to use it in most metropolitan areas, but it was a cool light. A lot of us people expect God's word to be like that in a prayer life, that if I see him, that boom, I'm going to see, hey, I'm going to be a Carmelite 24 years from now in France. Like, who knows? All God knows that you don't know if you get tomorrow. I don't know if I get to see my kids this afternoon, if I'm going to make it on the way home. Like, we have to live like Christ died yesterday, rose today, and he's coming back tomorrow, and live in that place. Because if the devil can do anything, he's just to get you into tomorrow or yesterday, anywhere but today. Because today is where the Holy Spirit is. Today is where the grace is sufficient for you. And so just say, hey, look, I may have a call to religious life, and that would be awesome. But that's a big yes. And I don't know even if God's asking me to give him that yes. But what I do know is the priest who helped marry us, Father Louis, God rest his soul, he used to say, the Holy Spirit talks to you 100 times a day. The question is, how often are you listening? If you become accustomed to saying yes to those little yeses, yes, I'll do that chore without being asked. Yes, I'll feed that homeless person. Yes, I'll say my night prayer. Yes, I won't waste my time on TikTok. And you just get used to those little yeses, then the big yes of your vocation will fall naturally into place. And so be at peace. Focus on the little yeses. Don't lose your peace because maybe there's 5% of wanting attention. If God's giving you this call and you live in his will day to day, then the vocation is going to fall right into place peacefully. You don't have to worry about convincing family members. Oh, no, it's not because of this. Yes, it is. No, it's not. You don't even have to enter into that conflict. You don't even have to try to win anyone's opinion. All you got to do is live in the present will today, and God will take care of tomorrow. Any other thoughts on vocational discernment there?
Just pray for pure intention. Just pure intention of what you do and how you're going about things, and not worry too much about it. You can get really consumed with this, and so could your family, and get so wrapped up in this that right now, just like Jason said, just live today. That's all you need to do, and live in the state of grace. Do God's will, and he'll take care of the rest. But you don't want to be so consumed with it that it's just like, at some point you just get tired of it and you're just like, okay, I'm done, never mind. Don't let the devil do that as well. So just day by day, little by little, God will take care of it.
Yeah, and in the end, St. Paul tells us, I believe it's in Corinthians, where everyone's work is going to be tested by fire, and some will burn up like hay, some will be purified like silver, and, maybe some will be like 50% good, 50%, pride, and they'll burn away that, and the good that's left there is to your merit. And so God alone knows the human heart. Just keep saying yes to him one day, 1 minute at a time, and he'll take care of the rest.
Great. Somebody in the live chat said also that Thomas Aquinas points out that religious life is a great way to perfect imperfections away. So just because you might be doing something for the wrong reasons doesn't mean that it's not the long-term plan God has for you. It might be that he's using your faults to bring you to a more perfect, like the thing he wants to perfect you with. So
yeah, absolutely. Don't think that you have to become perfect to become a religious. No, it's just those who are striving for perfection wholeheartedly in a unique way.
Great stuff. Cube Factor says he thinks his audio is fixed, so we'll give you one more shot
Okay.
here. Dun, dun, dun. All righty, Cube Factor, what's your question? Yeah, okay.
I think he's got an accordion.
I think he's doing a prank.
Okay,
So
I don't know.
Just ban him from the server.
And if you do have questions that we can hear behind the accordion, feel free to type them in Cube Factor, and we'd be happy to help you with that out. But I can't help you with any accordion lessons. That's all on you.
Yeah, unfortunately. Somebody asks, there's a woman I really like, but I don't know if I'm holy enough to have a chance with her. What is your advice for that? Do you just keep praying? But what do you have any advice for that? Like thinking you're not holy enough to have a relationship with a specific person?
Well, I mean, there could be legitimacy to that. There could be that she has really high standards of who she wants to marry, and maybe there's particular junk going on in your life that you really need to purge out, and there could be legitimate vices that you need to cut that, dragon's head off and then enter into your kingdom. Because a lot of guys will keep around particular vices kind of in the background, and almost like this little dragon that's like, I kind of want to poke at it, but I don't want to kill the whole thing, because we retain an affection for our sins. And sometimes we have an affection towards our sins because they've seen us through some dark times. And, they've been a false consolation, but at least a consolation. So I don't want to kill the whole thing, because what if I don't have it around? But then what ends up happening, it's almost like this dragon that you want to bring into the castle, into your vocation. But if you don't kill the dragon, whether it's porn, alcoholism, whatever it is, excessive gaming, excessive just lack of ambition, whatever it might be, and you don't cut that thing's head off and walk over its corpse and enter into your vocation, then it'll follow you right into that vocation and burn the whole thing to the ground. And so maybe she's onto something, and to the extent like, I don't take my prayer life seriously enough. And I've got some really bad habits. I've got this potty mouth, or I've got this, or I've got that. work on that stuff, because typically a woman of God, there's nothing quite like a woman of God to get a man to step up his game. Because I mean, I've met guys that were just slobs, and then they met like this godly woman, and they're like, holy moly, if I want a woman like that, I got to get my junk together real fast. And they did. I remember meeting a guy, and when he met his girlfriend, he was a total player, sleep around, looking at porn, Mr. Pimp Daddy, all that stuff. And she was all big into chastity. And so he met her, and it's like he had never met someone like this before. The virtue, the character, the class, she kind of had it all. And so he's just started hitting on her. And like, she thought it was a joke because she knew who he was. And she's like, oh, now you want to date a girl like me? And he's like, well, yeah, why not? What's got to happen? She said 3 things need to happen. He said, okay, well, what is it? She said, step number 1, you need to ask my father permission to court me. And he's like, well, that's kind of old school, but I'll do it. Fine. What's number 2? She said, I want you to read this 500-page book on theology of the body and chastity. And he probably hadn't read a book since he was like 9, but he's like, okay. And he read the whole book in 10 days. And then it was the theology of the body. He read the whole theology of the body in 10 days. And then, not knowing he understood it or not, I don't know, came back to her and said, okay, I did number 2. What's number 3? And she said, and she had to think, she's like, okay, number 3 is you can't kiss me until the day you lift my veil on the altar as my husband. She just wanted to see if he was willing to sacrifice, because she would not give away her kisses freely. And he said, okay, sign me up. And he dropped his entire old way of life only to become worthy of this one great woman who's now his bride. Now, girls, I'm not recommending you go off and date Mr. Snoop Dogg hoping you're going to be the Messiah. But the point is that a woman has power to shape the heart of a man. So let that shape you. If that makes you a better man to be worthy of her, go for it. Do it and think, well, am I really doing it for the right reasons? Yeah. Because Soren Kierkegaard, who's a philosopher, said, woman is the conscience of man. And when the woman as a culture sets the bar really low, and then they wonder why guys aren't jumping up to be knights in shining armor, it's like, well, I don't have to go to that much effort to win your heart. I just have to swipe left and right on Tinder, and then we've got a hookup in the mix. Whereas if a culture of women sets the bar real high, the man will realize he needs to be a gentleman in order to even have a chance at that woman's heart. That's why modesty is so important, because men don't want to get rejected. And if you can tell by the woman, the way she dresses, that she's not going to be keen on a hookup, he will stay away from those types of girls because he's not worthy. And so that's why modesty is an invitation of love. But in essence, what I'm trying to say is like, okay, maybe she's onto something and you got to step up your game. Good. Go for it. Hopefully she doesn't have unrealistic expectations of, he needs to be just absolute, practically canonizable. And then and only then will I even consider dating him. She could be setting herself up for a long season of loneliness if she doesn't realize that men have imperfections just as she does. But those are my initial thoughts in terms of, is she out of my league when it comes to holiness? If it is, grow in holiness.
Josiah, read the question again really quick.
The question again?
Yeah, read it. There's something in there I wanna hear.
Oh, I lost it.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I was searching for the next question, and so
Are you watching the Pacers game again?
I don't have it on. All right, I don't even have it on.
It almost sounded like in the question he was almost saying it wasn't like good enough.
Like she's out of my league.
Not, I know, but like almost like not good enough. Like I'm not worthy enough. I'm not, you know what I mean in that. And I just wanted to see what word exactly that they used. But whatever it was, I would just really dissect.
He said, I don't think I'm holy enough to.
Holy enough. Okay, that's almost like I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not whatever. I'm not enough, right? But I would just dive into that in prayer and just really dissect that, of where that is truly coming from. Maybe it's not even just a habit that you just need to stop. Is there a wound there that you just are keeping yourself from diving into certain relationships because you don't feel lovable, you don't feel good, you don't feel like there's something broken there? And that is something that maybe God is bringing to the surface now, because it's something that needs to be fixed before you do get into a relationship like that, because maybe it wouldn't end up going well because of that brokenness. But I mean, it's a fair question, it's valid.
Yeah,
but
this was a comment
dissected into.
This was a comment on the clip we put out earlier this week of Jason talking about women getting guys to notice them if they're interested in them. And he said, there's a woman I really like, but I know I'm not holy enough to have a chance with her.
Yeah, that's like a definitive.
And you said,
that's almost like
and you said, I'm too weird to ever have a relationship, so what should I do? So I think he may be, first of all, Jason definitely wasn't talking about you, you know.
Yeah.
But,
specifically.
yeah.
No offense, but Jason wasn't thinking about you. Don't take that the wrong
I
way.
know.
It's not like
I know.
a diss, but just
It's
that's
funny.
not what was going on. But sounds like you're right, Crystal. That's a good pickup on your part. I think it's a wound.
And
Yeah.
and I remember meeting a high school girl in Los Angeles years ago, and I remember what she said. She said, "I don't want to sound cocky, but I don't want to date a guy unless he's worthy of my body." And by that, she didn't mean like I have just the perfect figure and only the most perfect man. But what he was saying is like, I just need a guy who knows how to look at me with reverence. And if he doesn't even know how to look at me appropriately, then I don't really want to open up my heart to that kind of relationship. And so I think here, there's some fair insights on both sides in terms, because I mean, the fact that she's a woman, she's mysterious to begin with, so good luck with that. So the fact that we could unravel her intentions, I don't know, not having known her, but I would say take what's good in this of just like, hey, this is motivation for me to be a better man. But you don't want to end up in a relationship where you're perpetually feeling that you're just not up to snuff. You're just not enough. You're not as holy. I mean, that'd be like being married to a Pharisee. I think that could get old really darn fast. So
It's
Yeah,
very
and if there's any women who think that the only person they deserve is a perfect person, uh, sounds
called to
like
the
you need to go
religious
to
life.
religious life.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. There's
Yes.
one
A little
vocation for them.
comment there.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on down.
good.
Spot on.
There we go. Look at
I
us,
see
we're a
there's someone
team,
from
finishing each
Brazil.
other's sentences. What'd you
Yeah.
Yeah,
say?
I see there's someone from Brazil saying hello, so I want to say hello back,
Oh,
all the way in Brazil.
muito obrigado. That's my Portuguese, the
Amazing.
extent of it.
Um,
Been down there twice.
that's
I love it.
awesome.
I had
Um,
more people kiss me in Brazil in 2 days than all the kisses I received from my entire family in the span of like a 3-year period.
and
Guys
there's a
kissing me.
short.
I mean, just everybody,
Everybody
grandparents, you
does.
name it,
Yeah,
free
it's just like,
kisses. So, yeah,
whoa.
no, Brazil's awesome.
No, they are.
Okay. This question is, I'm a middle school teacher in a public school, and I see firsthand the damage today's culture and technology can have on the students' psyche and how they perceive love, sexual morality, etc. I can write a book on some of the horrific things I've been told that these kids have endured or been introduced to. What advice do you have on how I navigate being a listening ear for them and how I can help them see what they deserve as human beings?
Yep.
Um,
One, there's a movie that just came out
yeah.
on Blessed Carlo Acutis that would be worth showing to the entire class. And it's kind
Well,
of this
it's a public school.
Public school.
It's a public school. Oh, no, show it anyway. No, don't. I want to get you in trouble. But do what you can for one to kind of point out to them that, hey, guys, screens are awesome and they're fun, but they've done these studies that found your level of anxiety is typically exactly on par with the amount of time you spend on a screen. And so if you're spending 8 hours of screen time per day, your anxiety is going to be like an 8 out of 10. If you're on there for 1 hour a day, your anxiety is going to drastically go lower. And part of that is because all the comparisons that they're going to be exposing themselves to online. Another is just the false dopamine hit that they're getting from social media. Because we got to realize, if your kids are like, well, mom, dad, you don't trust me with the phone. It's like, look, it's not that I don't trust you with the internet. It's I don't trust pornographers, okay? I don't trust the people making these apps who aren't even just designing them to addict you. They're using AI to create algorithms that will know your interest patterns and get you sucked in. Okay, he likes 8-second videos. No, he likes 30-second videos on this topic, that topic. So that was like, wow, that kid could just fall down a black hole of online content for 5 hours and then just like pop out and be like, whoa, where did my entire day go? And so try to speak to them about the dangers, not just about the quality of things that they're looking at, but the quantity of time they're spending in it. I remember seeing an advertisement for an app that called it like the #1 time killer. And it's like, well, if time is sacred, what does it say that something's killing time? That's the motive behind this endless busyness of consumerism. And so try to point that out to the kids and linking it to anxiety because they think they could relate to that. And then also, to the degree you're able, educate the parents about software that's out there, whether it's Covenant Eyes or Canopy or Bark or just different things. The parents need to become computer literate about this stuff. Some parents don't even know how to open an email attachment. Their kid's like hacking into the Pentagon's website for fun after school. Like, you got to catch up and you got to learn the resources that are out there. And a lot of the parents just don't have a clue, honestly. And so I would say, as a public school educator, see if you can talk to the principal. Hey, we should bring somebody into the school that can do like an online internet phone safety thing for the parents, and let's record it and then send it out for parents who couldn't come so they can watch it in their email. So that way you're forming the parents about what a threat these devices could be and the threat of who these kids could be meeting online. I mean, like you as an educator, I've lost count of how many students have shared stories with me of, well, I met this guy and, it seemed like he was safe and he wanted me to share pictures and then this and that. And I mean, they're sitting there corresponding with a, registered sex offender, and they just think he's some cute high school boy when he's like some 45-year-old creep. And so the kids have to get educated on that stuff. And if the parents aren't doing it, I think the school should step in.
And also make sure, because I'm sure it can be a very frustrating situation for you as the teacher, and spending this time with the kids and hearing all of these like horrific things, or seeing how empty the kids are, or how alone they probably are, or that they're feeling. And I'm sure you go home at night and it might keep you up at night, or you're thinking about these things, just to make sure you're going to adoration, or giving all of these things and these worries and these poor kids and their heavy hearts back to God, because there's only so much you can do. You have so much time, and you're probably spending it the best way you can with them. But at the same time, it probably can be very draining on you, and to make sure you're filling up with prayer and the Holy Spirit. And that'll help you in the end to really just minister to these kids that are living in such darkness on their phones, because at the end of the day, they're engaging on their phones and with strangers and someone on the other side of that screen, because they are lonely, because they do want that companionship that they're probably not getting at home or with friends or whatever else. But just make sure you're filling yourself up with the grace of God and his knowledge and his wisdom and Holy Spirit. So when you do be with these kids, you are that glimmer of light that they may not see in anybody else in this dark world.
And try to work with your own administration in terms of the phone policy on campus, because I've been to some public schools and Catholic schools where really good phone policy of like, you're not even allowed to have a phone out of your locker all day long. We don't want to see it in the classroom. If we find you with a phone, your parents need to come pick it up at the end of the school day on their own free time, like super strict. And then I've come to schools and like I'll visit a high school theology class afterwards, and literally every kid's on the phone. And I'm a teacher like, hey, what's the policy here on phones, professor? And the teacher like, oh, well, we tried to put rules in place, but it was just impossible. So everybody can just have phones all day long. And I'm like, yeah, how's that working for you? It's got the inmates running the asylum. But yeah, work with your administration. I'm like, hey, what can we do? I know of some schools that will have these things hanging on the door where it's kind of a slot for every kid's phone. And it's almost like an attendance record of who's coming in. Like, hey, where's your phone? Put it in here when you walk into my class, so it's not going to be buzzing in your pocket, distracting you from my lesson plan. And so there's, try to make sure the administration is on board with trying to reduce the amount of screen time, at least while those kids are on campus, because who knows what's happening when they walk out the door.
Also, real quick, for any parents or possibly for this teacher, go look up, hold on, the name is Frances Hagen. It's a woman who was a Meta whistleblower. She testified in Congress in 2021 on Facebook and Instagram's algorithm targeting children. And there are ways they know they could fix it, but they are not.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you're any parents or if this teacher is interested in that or would maybe find that helpful, I think that's a great resource, a good thing to look up. So, yeah.
Because kids really think like social media was created for me to connect with other people. And now I'm connecting. It's like, no, this is a business. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. And they think, well, I'm not spending money. How could they be making money off of me? Like, they don't understand that this whole thing is created to generate revenue for somebody else. And the more time you're spending, the more money they earn. This isn't just so you can be more connected than ever, because this is the most disconnected generation, in my opinion, in the history of human civilization.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also the old saying, if you don't pay for the product, then you are the product. So just to everybody keep that in mind, especially for your kids. If you are not paying for something for your kids are the product.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big, it's a big thing. We got a comment on an old video today. And this is a little bit sensitive, so I'll 49% of trans adults have attempted to, permanently harm themselves, because there are words that YouTube won't let us say. and then it's they not accepting them, so I'm assuming trans children could literally kill the child. This is an old this is a comment on an old video with Father Malachi Martin.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
Malachi Martin. Sorry, who is this? I recognize this priest, but I don't know his name. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, he's an awesome priest and's got a lot of good
Joseph
stuff.
Father Malachi Napier.
Yep.
That's the one. Yeah,
Yep.
there
Yep.
we go.
There's an old
Sorry.
podcast we did interviewing him on this whole subject of pastoral care for individuals who experience gender dysphoria. This narrative is often fed by gender clinicians to the parents of gender dysphoric kids that if you don't move forward with social transitioning, hormonal transitioning, a puberty blockade, or giving your kid permission for top surgery, then your kid is going to harm himself, whether it's self-harm or, of extreme nature, it's going to happen. And so the narrative given is like, well, look, what do you want as a parent? Do you want a living son or a dead daughter? In other words, if you're not going to let your son transition, then you are complicit in the death of that child. This is an extremely psychologically powerful narrative for a clinician to tell to a parent. And a lot of the parents who aren't well read on this actual literature will think, oh my goodness, well, I certainly wouldn't want to do that. So I guess we just need to go along ahead and whatever they say, and then that'll really help. But what's going on over in England right now, there's something called the Cass report that you can pull up and read. It's a 388-page document where they looked at, the research that was behind transitioning and then found that it was based on very low quality evidence. This idea that if you don't give kids these things, then the self-harm rates are just going to go through the roof. If this is true, that by allowing kids to transition, this rate of self-harm is going to diminish, then what you would historically have seen is an exponentially high rate of self-harm, and then the puberty blockers came, the cross-sex hormones, the top surgery, and you name it, and then this plummet of self-harm shows up in the literature once these things became available. Study the literature and you will see the exact opposite has happened. Relatively low levels of self-harm, and then as the permission has been given for puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and so on, the self-harm rates go up. In fact, studies are clear that when you put a girl on puberty blockers, testosterone, her rates of self-harm increase, not decrease. This literature is very available, but it's not being put out there. In fact, if you look at people who have gone through the transitioning process, the biggest study that has ever been done on this was done in Sweden. And what you really need to look at any study on this whole subject, how many people were involved in the study and how long-term was it? It's not enough to follow up with these people 18 months after the surgery or whatever. No, let's really stay with them for more than a decade. And what they found happens at about 8 to 10 years after transitioning, the rate of people taking their own lives goes up 19 times higher than the general population. Amongst female to male transitioners, the rate is 42 times as high as the general population. Now, trans advocates would be quick to say, well, that's because of you transphobic religious bigots. This is called the social stress model. There is some merit to it because if a person who experiences gender dysphoria is experiencing persecution and hatred from their family or faith community, obviously that would contribute to depressive symptoms. But to use that as the explanation for all the self-harm does not do justice to the actual literature. Because what the literature show is that 90% of people who die in that manner have a diagnosable mental health condition that needs clinical intervention. Puberty blockers and hormones are not the answer to that. In fact, they contribute to rates of self-harm. Read the instruction manual that comes, the patient insert packet on puberty blockers, and it says this will increase crying, anger, irritability. It's all in the literature. The drugs cause these things. And so this idea that, if we just throw the kids on the blockers, these rates of self-harm is going to plummet, the literature shows the exact opposite. That's why the tune is changing. Amsterdam, Sweden, Finland, Norway, England, all of these places, even France is starting to put bans and blockades, keeping kids away from puberty blockers. Australia is looking into do it, of all places. Spain is starting to do restrictions. And so the United States, obviously. And so it's not because these are white, right-wing, pro-conservative cultures. It's because the research is in. It's hurting the kids. And so if anyone has the courage to look at it, read the Leon Cass report. Look at the 388 pages. Read the book of Abigail Schreier, Irreversible Damage. The research is in. This is bad for the kids. This is contributing to mental illness instead of actually treating it. And so this is going to go down as one of the biggest medical scandals in history. Without doubt, the biggest one of the entire century. Remember back in the early 2020s, they actually thought that if you put kids under the knife and you gave them these life-altering drugs, that somehow they'd be spared from all these mental health issues. No, I have talked to more kids than I can count wrestling with gender dysphoria. And when you really listen well to them, the trauma that's underneath some of this stuff, the harm that's been caused, the abuse, the massive rates of autism, massive rates of major depressive disorder that preceded the gender dysphoria. That's the key. It's not that they had gender dysphoria and then the depression set in. Look at the literature. Typically, the depression is already in place. Gender dysphoria then begins to exhibit itself. And obviously, as I said, if they're being treated horribly by their own family, they're going to be depressed and they might be more likely to self-harm. And so our answer is not, well, then just throw them to the wolves. It's like, no. Listen to them. Love them. They deserve compassion, not misguided mercy from the pharmaceutical companies that are making billions off of these poor kids.
Awesome. Great answer, Jason.
Get off my
we
soapbox.
have a question from Danny Boy. So we're going to bring Danny Boy up here. You can stand on your soapbox. That's kind of the whole point of this. But anyway. All right, Danny, I've invited him up. So he'll just click yes. And then, Danny, you're good to go.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh.
Yep.
Hi, Danny.
Brag. All right. How's it going?
Good.
Going good. How can we help out?
All right. So I have I have a question. So I am currently living in Massachusetts, and my girlfriend of almost 5 years is living in Florida. We both met in college in Massachusetts. She used to live here, and then after she graduated 2 years ago, she moved down with her parents. Right now, I am just trying to get her back up here because I feel like I can't really start my life kind of without her. And she's trying to apply for this job up in Massachusetts, and but she has a lot that she'd be leaving behind. Her two parents who have the rest of their children all over the U.S. So she's kind of like the last one with them, and she has a dog that she doesn't know that her parents take care of. And I'm just trying. I'm trying to encourage her to come up here, but I was told that I'm kind of ripping her apart. One from her parents' side, where she is at home, and one from my side up here. And so I was wondering, how do I encourage, but also with patient without ripping my girlfriend in half, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one, obviously, especially when you get the parental influence of all the kids and they're going to be empty nesters. But I think parents, if they love their child, are going to support the child's capacity to discern their own vocation in person, because the purpose of parenthood isn't to always keep them children. You're not supposed to raise kids, you're supposed to raise adults. And so if the parents love the child, as hard as it may be, if she feels called to the sacrament of marriage and is discerning it seriously with you, the most loving thing the parents can do is let go. And it doesn't mean that you'll live in Massachusetts for the rest of your life. Who knows? You might realize, hey, Boston is cold. Florida is nice. Maybe we should move down there together. Like, who knows what the future holds? But I would say, obviously, you don't want to push it too hard because you don't want to breed resentment. I came up here just for you, and now my parents hate me. It's got to be a choice that she freely makes because she realizes, hey, this relationship does appear to be moving in a particular direction, and we can't really discern marriage that clearly as long as we're 2,000 miles apart from each other. Crystalina and I met. We actually met in the Bahamas during a chastity conference. I need more of those. And if you're in the Bahamas, chastity.com, sign up, get events. But it was we met there and just totally hit it off. And then she moved back where she lived to Denver, and I moved back to San Diego. And so we had this year of just kind of like a long-term friendship thing kind of going on. And then when it was kind of clear, hey, this seems to be going in a particular direction, she had the freedom with her career that she was able to move to San Diego. But that wasn't something I really forced her to do, but it was away from her family. But it was a decision she had to make of like, okay, I'm going to put all my chips in and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, you move back. Not the end of the world. But any thoughts on that and what kind of helped you make the
Did
decision
you
to move?
say that she just got a job or she's looking for a job in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so she's currently unemployed where she is right now, which makes it harder for her to move up and find somewhere to stay. But she's trying to apply for this job that I'll be honest, I'm not really sure that she's gonna get because she's trying to offer a teaching curriculum at the school that she used to go to, and it's now closer to summer, and it always gets closer to school year. So I'm not very confident in that, but I'm holding out hope, and then I hope she gets it. But that's kind of the only thing that she has. But she does want to come back up. That's her vision, I should say.
Is your intent to marry this girl?
Of course,
Yes.
of course.
And how long have you been dating? 5 years, you said?
Yeah. So we met in when I was a freshman in college.
A freshman in college. And is she making any effort whatsoever to get down there?
Well, the job application. So she's
That's in Massachusetts.
well, no, she's in Florida. He's up in Massachusetts, so she's applying for a job up there.
Up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if she doesn't get it, have you kind of thought about it or prayed about what's going to happen? Or have you talked to her parents yourself and asking them kind of where they're at with everything? Because it seems like they may be holding her back a little too, which I understand the fear there on their part, and that's their last daughter that's in the house with them. But have you really had a talk with them and that your intentions, and do they know?
Yeah, so they know they're pretty on board of me marrying her. They're pretty open about
Great.
it, which is
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, and but whenever I talk to them about it, they try to push for me living with them down there in their house. Even before we're married, I'm in a separate room, and then once we get married, I move into her room. For me, I said hard no, but that's what they're kind of like trying to get me to do. They want me to come down there so they don't have to, because they moved down from Massachusetts, so they don't feel like they have to go all the way back up there.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
I mean, if there's a possibility for you to land a job that could support a family in Florida and you like it down there, could be something to explore. But like moving in with mother-in-law, father-in-law,
No.
Nick's, like I'd say hard no
Yeah.
on that one
Yeah.
because there's so much
Good man. No.
potential just for conflict, occasion of sin, and just yeah, no, that's not. So I want to second your instinct of like I don't think that's the right path to go.
Also, even after you get married, it doesn't matter how much you like your in-laws. That's not
That's
ideal.
not what you want to do.
Yeah.
No, it's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, so I mean,
intuition serves me well, I guess.
what's that?
I said intuition serves me well, I guess.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, I
it
think you're on the
does.
right path there. Now, this isn't to say that Florida's totally off the table. I mean, if there could be a career path down there that could work out and be close to family, because when you do have kids, as we discovered when we lived in San Diego, we had one kid, two kid, three kids, and no family.
Yeah,
And
that
then it was
rough.
hard, and I would travel and I would speak, and she had zero family, and then I would leave, and everything would hit the fan. I mean, it was just bonkers sometimes when I would leave, just the craziness. Not that you can't manage the household, but just the attacks that would happen, just spiritually. I mean, just stuff of
Hmm.
just going on, and there was no family, and so we realized we need some backup, and so we moved to Denver because that's where her family's from, so that she could have support as I continued the ministry and I cut down travel days, and we had the family there. And then we decided after 5 years living in Denver to move to Arizona where my family is. And so as we progressed and matured in our marriage, we realized the importance of being around family. It really helps, especially when you're trying to raise a family. And so maybe I don't know if your family's up there in Massachusetts, so you'd have some there. But I think you'll find as the marriage progresses, there's a lot of wisdom in not being too far from family. Sometimes you need a little distance, but not too much.
And
Yeah.
also, is it possible for you to go back down there, or you purposely want to stay away from there? Because if there's no way she's able to come up to you and you're serious about marrying this girl, is it possible for you to go down there, even if it's for a short time or for 6 months, that you're with her and being day in, day out with her, having that relationship and building a relationship face to face versus long distance? Because it's so hard to build a reality of a real relationship when you're so far apart.
Yeah. Well, I have thought about it. I think the hardest part is the isolation because all my family's up in Massachusetts. Only her
Mm,
parents are down in Florida. And it would just be me, and then like alone with no one that I know, and then her
Yeah.
and her family. And then I don't even think I have the means either. It's kind of the same on both sides. I don't have the means to move down there, even though I have my family up here that I can stay with. But I'm an artist, and so artists don't really make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I remember a guy tell me once, he was quite young. He was not finished with college. I think he might have even been in high school. And he said, I want to propose to my girlfriend, but I can't afford a ring. And what I had said to him is like, look, if you can't afford a ring, you can't afford a wife. You can't afford children. It's going to get a lot more expensive. And so the question is like, if I can't afford an apartment by myself in Florida, do I need to reassess the stream of income that I have? Because if I want
mhm.
to have a family and I want to have children, is the career path that I'm on an ambition that I love, but it can't really make ends meet? It can, take care of me as a single guy, but what about if I'm adding on 2, 3, 4 dependents? Might I want to keep the art as kind of a side thing while I'm pursuing this other stream of income to be able to support the family? I don't know. I mean, maybe the parents are like, well, we're nervous about you going up there and marrying him. Like financially, wouldn't it just be easier if you guys all crashed at our place and you could save up some funds? So like, I'm sure they're coming from a good motive. But I just
Yeah,
want to reaffirm you. I think it's best not to live with the in-laws before or after the wedding bells.
But don't stay in limbo like this for too long. Like some decisions do need to
Yeah.
be made and sacrifices in order for you to be together, but continuing just staying long distance, I don't think that's a good idea either. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of waste of time that it keeps getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off because that is waste of time, to be
Yeah.
honest, that you have to be together, having that relationship, building on it, seeing if it really works for long periods of time together, because a lot will come out that won't over the phone, and
Yeah.
we build up a lot of another in the imagination. And I know you've been with her for 5 years, so it sounds like you've spent significant time with her, but at the same
yeah,
time, don't continue to live in this limbo. Someone's going to have to jump.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who's going to do it and where you land best. So
Yeah, so
just really take it to prayer, and just see where God's leading you. He's leading you somewhere right now. He's not going to just leave you in limbo. He never does. But sometimes the decision that we have to make deep down that we know we should, we don't want to. And it's hard. But at the same time, God is there. He will catch you. He will help you. But you just kind of have to leap sometimes into whatever it is he's asking, even though you may not like it, the answer or what it is you have to do. And I don't know if that's the case here or not, but just really pray into it. Just stay in the state of grace, close to God, because he has a purpose and a plan for all of this, for both of you. You just have to know what that is.
But thanks
yeah.
for calling
Thank
in.
you.
Does
You're
that
welcome.
help you? I hope
I
that helps
appreciate it
you.
all.
Yeah. You're
You're
welcome.
welcome.
It
We'll
did.
be
Thank
praying
you.
for you, Danny, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, and let us know
So,
how it goes, really. Let us know. It'd
Mm.
be interesting to see.
all right, I will.
All right,
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
All right, God bless.
Josiah, what's up next?
We had two more questions tonight. First one's from a patron. It was a longer question, so I've summarized it down. So this isn't a direct quote, but it says, I'm a Catholic, my wife is not, and she's having trouble understanding why we should get our marriage convalidated. We are civilly married. I really want to go back to church. I haven't been in 8 years, but I can't drive, and the parishes are very far away. I'm relying on other people to get me places. I want to pass on the faith to my children, ages 2 and 1, without forcing it on them. What should I do?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing to do is when I approach your wife, I would first say, honey, there's really been something weighing on my heart a lot. Can I talk to you about it? That's kind of opening up. And she'll say, yeah, what is it, honey? What's going on? And you'll just say, I've just felt this stirring in me over the last several months or years or whatever of just wanting to get back more in my faith and re-engaged in my faith so I can just be a better husband and a better father. And I can't even tell you how much it would mean to me if we could just get our marriage blessed in the church. And it's not to say that we're not legally married, because like we're husband and wife, we got married on the beach or just as a peace. Like there's a legal marriage that took place there, recognized in the eyes of the state. And I'm not saying that, we never got legally married, but as a Catholic, when you get married physically in a church, it's the sign that like I'm asking of all of the graces of God to love my wife the way I'm supposed to love her, that this is actually a sacrament. And as a Catholic, if you get married outside of the church, physically outside of the church, the beach, justice of the peace or whatever, and you've not received some type of dispensation, permission for doing that, you have not left the faith through a public act where you have declared, now I am Lutheran or whatever, the church would not recognize the sacramentality of the marriage, which is difficult because the wife would hear that as like, what? The church says we're not even married. I don't get it. So you don't want to explain it that way. The way you want to explain it is like, what I want is if we could get our marriage blessed in the church, that we are asking the full graces. And by us getting our marriage blessed in the church, honey, doesn't mean that you have to be Catholic. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything the church teaches. It doesn't mean that. It just that means that you and I are in agreement that we'd like to have this marriage blessed by the church, convalidated and recognized in the eyes of the church. That would just mean a lot to me. And so maybe if she understands, no, I'm not asking you to become Catholic. No, I'm not saying that I'm not your husband, but what I am saying is I would like this to be sacramentally recognized in the church. And hopefully she'll realize it's like, hey, what does she have to lose by that, right? I mean, maybe there might be some pressure coming from her family where they're not into the Catholic Church and some opposition maybe going on there. But if she's understanding like, hey, this is just my husband wanting to love me better as a wife. And then you need to be going to Sunday Mass. You need to be living a sacramental life. You need to, before you're converting those kids, the wife, or anybody else, you've just got to make sure that you're living out the precepts of the church and what God is asking you to do, and start taking up that prayer, not being afraid. But I think if you present it to your wife as a way that she can make you feel loved, hopefully I think she'd be in agreement on that. Thoughts?
I would really just sit her down away from the kids, or when they're in bed and you have some quiet time, and just really try to understand where she's coming from, why she doesn't want to, where her hangups might be, where there might be some wounds from the past of issues with the church or something that may have happened, or why she has this aversion to it, and really try to enter in to that, because that's your roadblock. That's where she's at, and helping you understand where she's coming from. Maybe you can help her with that wound, or help her with that kind of block she's having with the Catholic faith, because there's something there. This just doesn't come out of nowhere. And also just fast. I would fast for your wife and any strongholds that are there or whatever's keeping her from doing it. Just fast, pray, and just offer up your communions for your wife, that maybe you both can come into full communion of the church. Because by keeping it like that, the evil one wants to keep you guys there. He wants to keep you out of the church. So this isn't just like a conversation with your wife. This is also a spiritual battle that you need to enter into to really fight for your kids, fight for your wife, fight for your marriage, to bring it in full communion with God in his church. So also look at it that way. This isn't always just between you and your wife. There's other elements at play here. That you can proactively go at, and you can wield the weapons of the church to break those things. But just be strong in your prayer life, in your state of grace, and offer up those communions, and your communication with her is going to be key.
Yeah, I think that's a real important what Crystal said, is that not what's the best way I can phrase this to convince my wife, but to really go in there with opening ears to hear where she's coming from, because sometimes there's impediments to marriage that might not even be on your radar. I think when I went to Haiti years ago, the priest was telling me how so many couples in the parish cohabit and they never get married in the church and they never baptize their kids. The kids don't get the sacraments. It's all because the parents won't marry. I'm like, where do you think this is coming from? And he said, oh, what it is they don't have a wedding dress. And for Haitians, ceremony is very important. And if you can't afford a suit and you can't afford a dress, then you just cohabit until you can afford one. I'm like, so you tell me, if I just shipped you a bunch of wedding dresses, everybody be getting married in your parish? She said, oh, absolutely. Yes. I'm like, game on. I got back here. I announced it on social media. I had a friend who was a pilot that could fly from Florida to Haiti. And we just announced it. I said, hey, ladies, you know that dress sitting up in your closet you haven't touched 30 years? Listen to this. Women sent all these dresses to this pilot I know in Florida. He flew boxes of the stuff down to Haiti. Before you know it, the priest is sending me pictures of mass weddings of like 12 people, 12 couples at a time getting married. And they keep all the dresses there in the church so brides can come pick out a dress they like. They get married. That's blessed by the church. Now the kids are getting baptized. The kids are in confirmation, First Holy Communion, because this whole domino effect happened because there was just that impediment that needed to be removed, and then the graces could flow. And so I'm not saying with your wife, well, she just wants a dress and then she's ready to go. I'm sure it's a little more complicated than that, but listen well, as Crystal said, and then hopefully that can remove some of these blockages. So Josiah, we got time for one last question?
We have one last question from Laura. She's on the voice, actually, so I'm inviting Laura up to speak. Laura, you can go ahead and push join the stage, and Laura's here. So Laura, go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Well, wow. What an honor. Thank you so much for making the time for me. I did post this on the Patreon channel last minute, but I think I maybe did it wrong.
Right.
But I am a mother of two kids. One is 3 and she's a girl. The other one's a baby, so he's fine for a little while. But we're getting to the age of hanging out with cousins. I do stay home with both of my kids, and hanging out with cousins, a lot of them have great parents and similar values to us, but several of them come from broken homes, open access to any TV, any YouTube, anything at all. We've already had some significant issues of cousins showing each other more than they should. And it's all cousin stuff. It's not even like extended friends that we can cut out relationships with to protect our kids. It's our own siblings and how they parent and our own parents. And we want to obviously raise our kids with their family. And I know you guys have a lot of children. So that's our specific example is, how do we engage with our family without scarring our children. But then the broader question is my husband and I would just love if you guys at some point did a deep dive on how to raise kids in the worlds of iPhones and, terrible people being on Sesame Street and how to be a parent in 2025 for little kids.
I mean,
But
trust me, we're in the
we only have a
trenches
couple
with you, trying to navigate and figure it out. And first, thank you for supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate that more than you can imagine. But in terms of strategy, I remember talking to a friend of mine, Matt Frad, once about this. And one rule he had is that if his friend wants to go hang out at his friend's house, Matt would call the other person's dad and be like, do you guys have Covenant eyes installed in your house or not? Because if you don't, my kid's not even coming into your house. And the other dad would be like, well, it's Covenant eyes. And then, well, I'll explain. And so he would use it as kind of an evangelistic opportunity. Now, obviously, some parents might not take well to that. Some people are like, oh, yeah, we've got all the filtering devices. We're on the same page as you are. You kind of have a little bit more peace of mind in that. Obviously, it gets a little trickier when you got family involved, because Christ promised, do not think that I have come to bring peace, but the sword, that one's enemies will be those of his own household, the father, the son, and so he's going to be a sign of division and a contradiction. And so what you could maybe do to mitigate some of this is like, look, I really want my kids to grow up with their cousins, but I really don't feel like they're getting the supervision they need over at their house. And so let's do a play date where we're going to the pizza place together. So we're out of your house. The kids are under our supervision at all times. We're going to go to this play area together. If you know that you're going to have a better set of eyes over the kids, you can watch them play together, have conversation with the parents. It might be a safer, or, hey, why don't you bring them over to our house? We got the swimming pool. We got this. So you can keep an eye on stuff if you don't feel comfortable having your kid over at their house. But in the end, if you feel that relationship is like, well, look, I could even have them hanging out, and the kind of conversations they're hearing from that kid is just not what I want my kid to be hearing, at some point you have to draw the line in the sand, and it's not going to be particularly popular. And, the parent might get all upset, like, what, you guys are too good for us, and you could cause these painful rifts. But I think your primary purpose as a parent is to get those kids to heaven. Come hell or high water, that is the number one priority. And if that means pulling back a little bit from bad influences outside of the family or in, sometimes it's a decision, unfortunately, you need to make. But I try to mitigate it in the first place by having play dates out, public places where you're with and you're seeing what's going on. Maybe play dates over at your place instead of theirs. Could be little stepping stones instead of just simply, cutting them all off. But other thoughts on that too?
If it's your family, hopefully you feel comfortable enough to have those kind of frank conversations of, look, is it okay that we just don't have any devices around, or the kids aren't on any computers, or when we're all together, we just don't have TV time, let the kids just play and hang out, and that's the purpose of us getting together. But just to have those very frank conversations of what your boundaries are, what you're going to accept, what you're not going to accept, and hopefully because your family, they're going to respect that, and just have those in place, and just always maybe keep your eyes on them, and open door policy when you guys are all hanging out together, that you can kind of keep an ear out or whatever it is. And it sounds like yours are still pretty young, but at the same time they're getting exposed to things that you don't want. And really have those deep conversations with your kids as young as they are of, well, what is it you guys talked about? What did you do? I call that fishing, just having those conversations of fishing, of just asking the right questions of, well, what'd you guys talk about? Did you see anything? Did anything seem just off to you? Or I don't know, just just talk to them, and a lot of times they'll just keep going and they'll just say things and let you know what happens. I know my kids always did. But just making sure you're just having those conversations. If there ever is something off, your child does know it. And I remember one time, my little girl was hanging out with someone. She's like, Mom, it just seemed weird. I saw this commercial, and she just said, she goes, it was weird. That's all she said. And I said, oh, well, tell me about it. And we got into the conversation. Then I was able to kind of put that fire out. But I think just keeping that open communication, because once you don't have that with your kids, and if you can put that foundation down now as they're so young, they'll know that you just have those conversations with mom whenever you go somewhere. You come home and you just kind of have a debriefing with mom. It's just what we do. That's what I do with my parents. So I think that's something just to enforce now. But if you could have those frank conversations with those family members and let them know kind of boundaries and where they're at, what you're tolerating when you're around them, and hopefully they'll respect that.
Yeah, I think that's so important, is just give them the ability and the opportunity to respect your boundaries. Instead of just going cold turkey, cut you off, we're better than you are, is how it may come off to them. You just kind of explain, hey, these are really important to us. We love you guys. We want our kids to grow up together, but it's really important for me, X, Y, Z. Can we be on the same page as that? Like having a frank conversation up front can remove the possibility of so much bitterness down the road of like, well, you didn't respect my boundaries. I don't know. You're blah, blah. So yeah, have that hard conversation up front, and I think that'll pay some good dividends.
Wow, thank you guys so much. This is
You're
so
welcome.
helpful. And I'd happily take any prayers for these upcoming conversations. And if you guys ever want to do a whole series on how to be a parent these days,
we'll let you
I
know.
read
Yeah,
your
we're the
stuff when I was
pros.
a teenager, and it worked great. So
Yeah.
We will think about that after we get out of the trenches of this war we're in right now with kids. So yeah, we're all in it together though, and nobody's perfect. You're not going to be a perfect mom. Nobody is a perfect mom. You are going to make mistakes. That's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself, but you learn from them. But just the open communication key is honestly your best weapon in this dark world right now.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Saint Therese of Lisieux, canonized saint. Her mom's a canonized saint. Her dad's a canonized saint. Her sister got kicked out of Catholic boarding school 3 times for behavioral problems. It's like, okay, we're all doing okay. All right. It's all going to be a mess. God's with us in the mess. So, but thank you for the support on Patreon. Thank you for calling in today.
Keep you in prayers.
And so, again, for people who want to call in the future, live at chastity.com. If a question comes up tomorrow, you could send it in, and then we'll have it ready for the show next week. I will be heading out tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow, Friday, to Switzerland for a wilderness backpacking retreat out there. We do still have a few spots open for the trip to Italy. I think we've got 2 or 3 spots left, and that's it. If you want to join Crystalina and I to get to see Pope Leo for the first time, which is going to be awesome, for the canonization of Blessed Per Giorgio Frassati. And then we're just announcing today, which no one knows about, the next wilderness backpacking retreat is going to be super cool. It's not even on the website yet, but it's about to be in the next couple of days. We will be flying to Paris, then taking a bus together over to Lisieux to see Saint Therese, fangirling.
Yes, I am.
And then we're going to go to Mont Saint-Michel, that cool-looking castle there in the bay, and we are going to hike barefoot through the bay to Mount St. Michael on the Feast of St. Michael toward the end of September.
Doesn't.
Oh, but it does, because then
it does.
we're going to go on a wilderness backpacking hike to Solesmes, which is the most beautiful Gregorian chant in Europe, and we're going to live with the monks. The organizer of the pilgrimage was telling me, like, okay, well, we can get a hotel in town for you and Crystal because they have, sex-separated rooms for males and female. I'm like, no, when we come to the monastery, we're doing the monastic thing. Put her with the girls, put me with the guys. Like, we want to live like the monks for 2-3 days. And so it's going to be more of a contemplative wilderness backpacking retreat, hitting up Lisieux, Mont Saint-Michel, and then Solesmes, and then an additional add-on. If anyone wants extra time in Paris, they could add that on. And so this is going to be the last week of September, first couple days of October. Details will be showing up very soon at jp2trails.com, but we anticipate that one's going to fill up rather quick because it sounds super duper cool at the end of September. But if you want to come with us, Italy, importantly, a couple spots left. The France pilgrimage is wide open, and registration is about to open. But yeah, thank you guys for calling in. Thank you, Patreons, for your support making this entire show possible. If you want, please consider joining our community at Patreon, patreon.com/Jason Evert. And any gift that you make of subscribing and joining the group goes to support our family, goes to support the mission that we're doing here through the shows that you see on YouTube. So we really appreciate the generosity. If we've been a blessing to you and your families, it's kind of a way to bless us back. But more importantly, please keep us in your prayers and be assured of our prayers in return. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Praying for you.